ワンピースは実在する。
俺はモンキー D ルフィ。お前らを超えて海賊王になる男だ。
人の夢は終わらねえ。
Welcome
to Nerdville.
We'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
This is chapter 1085 of One Piece, The Death of Nefertari Cobra.
Alright, we're going to talk about the cover page today. Honestly, it's the best cover page of all time. Frankie is awesome. He's helping all them little turtles get to the sea safe and sound. And he's sitting on a crab that's probably going to try to eat them. I would like to thank MT Apple for requesting this because I am so stoked to see that cover page this week. It's like awesome.
First off, we're going to do a quick recap of this chapter, and then we'll give our thoughts after we're done, our speculation and our theories.
So the chapter starts with Cobra being surprised and shocked about somebody sitting on the throne, and it says that nobody should have the power to control the world. He asks who they are, and when he puts two and two together about hearing the name Imu, he suggests that one of the initial leaders that created the Celestial Dragons was named Imu, and that refers to maybe that person is as old as that time. They go on to talk about the D saying that they're the moniker of our ancient enemies, and that they're just an echo from the past. And Imu enters a rage and says that the poneglyphs should have never been in the first place scattered around the world. That was a mistake. But since Cobra mentions the letter that Lily left to her descendants, she thinks that it might not have been a mistake, but actually part of some larger plan. This leads to the Gorosei drawing out their weapons, showing that Cobra isn't going to get out of this in one piece. Then they ask what the truth is that lies into the letter that Lily left. She asks what is the full name written on that letter to Cobra. Cobra at that time realizes there's no escape. He's not going to leave this room alive.
So Cobra affirms what we were saying last chapter by asking the Gorosei if any lie could get him out of this. But the Gorbachev Gorosei tells him that his fate is sealed the moment he saw Imu. Sabo is watching this transpire while Cobra states the full name of the queen who left him the letter, Nefertari D. Lily. At that point, Cobra is shot immediately by an arrow, seemingly coming from Imu. Sabo appears to attempt to rescue Cobra. The Gorosei and Imu manage to survive Sabo's onslaught, with Imu commenting about, wondering who Sabo is, like where did he come from? And yeah, Sabo assumes his attack would be fatal.
All too easy.
And apparently didn't assume that those at the top of the world would be powerful and be able to survive. So Sabo takes an injured Cobra to safety after discussing Cobra's friendship with Luffy. Cobra insists that Sabo let him go, stating that he is dead weight, but we know Sabo, he's a good guy, he's not gonna let someone die even though he's part of the world government. Then Cobra said that there's something he's come to understand about the Nefertari family and their role, and gives Sabo a message to tell Vivi and Luffy that both him and Vivi are also members of the D-Clan. They share the same moniker. So this makes Sabo have a flashback towards the ASL arc, the Ace Sabo Luffy arc, and asks them during that flashback why they had the same initial in their name, the D. And they don't really care. They're, Luffy and Ace, they don't care about that stuff. And they wonder if Sabo also wants the D in his name. And they call him Sadbo. After this funny scene, unfortunately, we see an arrow, a shadowy type of arrow, pierce through both Cobra and Sabo.
They continuously attack both of them, and in his dying breath, Cobra quotes the letter saying, "The poneglyphs must be protected, fly the flag, herald the world's eventual dawn." That's what we think it might be, but we'll talk about it a bit later, since part of the first bubble is covered by a scream. After Cobra dies, the Gorosei and Imu realize somebody else has been watching the entire event, and it's actually Wapol. When he realizes that they've noticed his presence, he gets really scared and just starts running for his life. As this is happening, the reverie has continued, with the world leaders continuously talking about all the world matters at hand. And they say that actually Cobra and Wapol won't be attending due to, I think, Cobra a medical emergency, and King Wapol, they just don't know where he is. As they continue talking, they mention that the next thing on the agenda is going to be the coalition of 4 northern nations calling for their independence. So after this, we see the princes and the princess of the fishmen saying that the reverie is nearly over and they should head to the harbor to avoid any more entanglements with the celestial dragon. Also, Srry just wants to say goodbye to Vivi and she wonders where she is.
After this, we follow up with Vivi where we see that she has been captured by CP0, where we see the NES lobby team of CP9 agents, who have now become CP0 agents. Obviously, following this, Vivi asks if Shirahoshi is alright because of what we saw in the previous chapter and what had happened previously in Marijuana. And the others are like, seriously, it's not the time to be worried about anyone else. But they appease her and tell her that she did come out of the ordeal unscathed. And Vivi obviously is very glad. Jabra mentions that they discovered that Leo and Sai not only caused the commotion, but boldly gave their names and affiliation, mentioning that they're members of the Straw Hat Fleet. There's also a better explanation about how the admirals were held back by the captains of the revolutionary, as Jabra also mentions that Fujitora's actions helped the revolutionaries free the slaves. So as we said, learning about Shirahoshi's safety appeases Vivi, but she still needs to escape the situation. As soon as she finishes her thoughts, a hero appears to save the princess.
Because I am here!
Wapol eats through the walls of Marijois to find a place to hide at the ends of the earth to escape the potential wrath of Im-sama. Vivi is shocked when she sees him, and when he mentions his plan to escape, Vivi hilariously agrees with him, and they are noticed by Wapol's wife, who thinks he is escaping with a mistress.
If you made it this far into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Do it!
So now we're going to give our thoughts on the chapter, the speculations, and the theories that we might extrapolate from this.
It's interesting to have a little bit more context. The fact that poneglyphs were supposed to be gathered by the world government and kept as a secret from the world, and that one individual might have nudged it in one way because I know Imu suggests it, but the moment we hear that she was a D, that could make perfect sense why they would have spread the poneglyphs around, right? Knowing the importance.
Yeah, for sure. And I think not only does this give us, more info about Lily and her goals, perhaps, but also it makes you think of the connection with the Kozukis. Because when you think about it, in Alabasta, there is a link with Wano, where the poneglyph that Robin read mentions Pluton.
True.
So yeah, it's because from what I remember, the Kozukis are the ones that crafted the poneglyphs. So there's obviously a link there between Queen Lily and the poneglyphs. So that's interesting. It'd be interesting to find out more about that later on.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I would want to see is, like, obviously we see how strong Sabo is, but I mean, he's a bit cocky, thinking he could take out the entire Gorosei and Imu in one shot. I mean, that sounded like, that was a bit ridiculous. When I read that, I was like, come on, man.
What did he say? I'm gonna pull up that moment ago.
I was hoping I'd be able to take all of you out in one move.
Hey, I mean, it's smart of him to try at least,
Also, we see a little bit of their, looks like they're probably Zoan types, from what I can see. Like, the shadows give me a Zoan type vibe, Like, we see a bird, maybe like a bull, a lizard.
We also see, it looks like they have the cloud ring around their neck, like Luffy and Yamato and Lucci have in their awakened forms. So, they're definitely Zoans from what we see with the bird and the lizard but me, like, when I read that, for some reason, like, the first thing that popped in my head were the Earthbound Immortal Gods, I think they're called, in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I won't go into the details and the specifics about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, it doesn't matter. But the lore they're based on are the Nazca lines, the Nazca line drawings. And I just thought that was interesting, at least. There's no links seemingly, except from the one that looks like a lizard, because I know there's a Nazca line drawing that looks like a lizard, and a
I'm pretty sure
bird
there's
as well.
birds. I'm pretty sure there's
Yeah, the bird as well. Yeah, the general idea on the Nazca lines and the people that created them is that they worshipped gods of agriculture and fertility, and like gods of nature. And it's interesting because you could like link that to, you know, what Robin said, I think in chapter 287. Yeah, 287. Yeah, I think that's the chapter. It's in Nolan's flashback. There's someone that's going to be sacrificed to the big serpent, and she mentions that person, the god of earth, the god of rain, the god of the sun, obviously, you know, Luffy, probably, and someone else, god of the forest. Yeah, so there could be a link there. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the silhouette, you know, that gives me this sort of gooey vibe. But you know, when she shoots the arrow, Emu, like it does look like it's like kind of bending and molding, you know, like kind of like a gooey substance, like a symbiote substance. So, but man, like I think what's really cool in this chapter is not all this Emu stuff. Obviously, Emu, Lily, all this stuff is very interesting. But Fujitora, man, Fujitora.
I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be a bit controversial here, maybe, with Fujitora, but like, he might be just a better version of Garp at this point. For not in terms of combat ability, but I think in terms of how he's able to get to the top of the government and still do the right thing when he has an opportunity to do the right thing. I think it was an example. He's an example that shows to Garp, why did you stop at that level of government to keep your freedom? Look, you don't have to bend to the rules. You just have to find your opportunity in the rules.
Yeah, because like Fujitora, like Garp, he probably doesn't like the Celestial Dragons either. So it's just Garp that's stubborn and really doesn't want to answer to those guys.
私はゆくゆく天竜人になりたいのだ。あんなゴミくずにか。
We know that Garp isn't the lead sword, so maybe it's Fujitora.
True.
It's probably heavily based on Garp's ideology, but you know, like we know he's helping Sword out, so he's not part of Sword. Like going back to Emu and you know the shadowy figure stuff and all that. Emu was able to injure Sabo, so how can you confirm?
I mean, it could be many things, but it's just we knew, like personally, I knew that they were going to be a big threat. One last thing there's two things I want to cover, I think, left. There's the fact of them talking about the 4 northern nations calling for independence.
Oh, yeah.
Because we know that there's been countries that have been...
Yeah, Dragon mentioned it.
Yeah, I've been turned around, and I wonder if that coalition is part of those, or they're on top of what already happened.
Well, remember, yeah, this is the Reverie, so it's before. So, but you know, no, because the revolution, from what I remember, Sabo's plan of going to rescue Kuma was happening side by side with what was happening with what was he? 8 successful. Yeah,
out of 12.
There were 8 out of 12 successful uprisings.
But the thing is,
maybe those 4 nations are part of those uprisings. Yeah,
I'm thinking they might be, but the fact that they're called a coalition as well might make me suggest that they might not be part of it. And I think the last thing we have to think about, like we have to talk about, is Wapol, because first of all, he's basically another version of Buggy. If you think about it, he's kind of
good than Buggy.
He's less good than Buggy, but he's fake. But he's failing upwards constantly.
Yeah. No, that's
to
true.
be fair.
He is failing upwards. Yeah.
Constantly. But I think the most important part about it is, who is Wapol with right now that we know of?
Morgan's, and it's terrible. I'm super scared.
But I mean, do we think like he's gonna say something to Morgan's? Morgan's gonna get him out of it.
It's
it has
pretty
to be
clear, and this, I think, the biggest thing of this chapter is it's pretty clear that I think it was in chapter 1078. In Egghead, there was a speech bubble from the narrator talking. We don't get the narrator that often, saying that there was going to be a secret that would shock the world that would be revealed at the end of Egghead or something along those lines.
It might be that.
It seems pretty obvious that, you know, the taboo, you know, like, what was Cobra saying? He was saying, yeah, not surprising they can't let anyone know the world's greatest taboo has been broken. So the fact that the taboo has been broken is, like, probably what is going to shock the world. We're assuming.
But I'm thinking, if I'm Morgans, do I want though to print that?
Morgans does what he wants, man.
I know
He
Morgans
had,
doesn't.
a CP agent, like, saying the world government's gonna arrest you, and then he just killed him.
No, I know that he does what he wants, but what I'm telling you is like, because he does what he wants, is he actually gonna talk? Is it too dangerous? Is it
possible.
just?
He might wait
Is it
till,
Oda?
you know,
Is that
Luffy-
Oda? You know, putting this out there, putting us on one, saying, "Oh, well, that's definitely the thing he was talking about,"
Yeah,
and just doing something completely different.
I had been seeing a theory online, it was ages ago, that Morgans was part of Roger's crew, and that, you know, that's why he's helping out Luffy. So maybe he's been waiting for an opportunity like this to reveal the secret of the world government, you know? He just needed the info, the confirmation. I like that idea that he was part of Roger's crew. I think it's cool.
But it also could be possible that the Roger Pirates knows that the taboo has been broken because it's transcribed in the poneglyphs, right? So Morgans might already know that info. And if Morgans, as you suggest, might be on the group, maybe he's part of the group that already knew that information anyways.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying, he needed a witness, right? Like, not someone who's like, oh, I read something on some unreadable poneglyph, you know? And lastly, the last thing I would like to touch on is another thing that I saw popping up online when we were reading Egghead. We saw that, well, I saw online that they were saying that the figure that we saw in chapter 1075 of One Piece in Egghead, when Shaka saw on a monitor a shadowy figure like destroying everything, and people were saying it was Jake Garcia Saturn because the hair looked similar and the headband and everything, like it seemed like it could be him. I thought it was S-Bear, honestly, and I didn't change my mind until this chapter where when we see the silhouettes again, like the gooey,
it does have
shadowy figure.
that.
Yeah, right. So I'm coming around to that. Like it makes more sense. Again, like for me, consistently wise, doesn't make sense why Jake Garcia Saturn would himself, you know, just go ham in the facility. That'd be super dangerous.
No, actually, it makes perfect sense. Because he's the only one with higher authority, right? But he needs to get to them. So I think that theory just pans out. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense, actually.
And it could also link with this chapter as well, where like they might be scared that the info is gonna come out. Sabo came out alive. Wapol came out alive. So two people that have come out alive know about Im-sama. So maybe right now they just don't give a shit. Right now they're just focused on acquiring power because that's what they need to survive. The upcoming storm that's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, we know that we're gonna have a kind of a triple war with the Revolutionary Army, the government, and the pirates.
But yeah, this was a great chapter, man. Like
I can't wait for the next one.
Chapter where we got information that we already knew. Here we got a bunch of shit to speculate on. A lot of, well, I mean, we got some stuff that we already knew as well, like Emu mentioning, the D is the moniker of our ancient enemy. I think Doflamingo had mentioned they're the devil, or whatever. It's something in that regard. But yeah, overall, just amazing chapter. Great cover page, as you said, for you.
Best cover page. Best cover page.
Represent from Oda.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
thanks
great
again,
capture,
Empty Apple. Thanks again.
Yeah, Empty Apple.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
I love, you know me, I love the ASL arc, so seeing that like little panel of Sabo, Luffy, and Ace eating was so sweet for me.
Sure. He can be Sadbo, right?
Sadbo. That was great. So funny.
Well, thanks for watching, guys. Don't hesitate to put in the comments what you were thinking about the chapter, and I can't wait to see what you guys have to say about it. Thanks.
See ya.